I stepped into Elizabeth's home, the familiar scent of baked cookies wafting through the air, filling me with warmth. The laughter of my grandchildren echoed in the background, a sweet symphony of joy. I felt the excitement bubbling inside me. I was here to help, to be a part of their lives, to create memories. But as I turned the corner into the living room, David stood there, arms crossed, his brow furrowed. "Glad you could make it, Mary," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "I hope you're not planning to spoil them too much." His words stung, sharp as a bee's sting. I forced a smile, but it felt brittle, like glass ready to shatter. I had come with love in my heart, only to encounter his thinly veiled criticism. The warmth I had felt just moments ago faded, replaced by an icy chill. I wondered if this was the welcome I deserved. "Just a bit of fun," I replied, trying to lighten the mood. "Kids need a little spoiling now and then, don't you think?" David shrugged, his gaze flicking away. I swallowed hard, feeling unwelcome in my own family. The tension hung in the air like a heavy fog, obscuring the love I once felt so clearly. Elizabeth entered the room, her face lighting up when she saw me. "Mom, you're here!" She rushed over, enveloping me in a hug that felt like home. But even as she held me, I sensed the weight of her loyalty hanging in the balance. "Just in time for lunch," she said, smiling brightly. "The kids are so excited to see you." "Are they?" I asked, forcing enthusiasm into my voice. I knew they were, but the shadows cast by David's remarks loomed large. As we settled around the table, I tried to engage the children, but David's comments lingered like smoke. "You know, Mary, kids these days need discipline, not just treats. You raised Elizabeth well, but maybe a little more structure wouldn't hurt." "David," Elizabeth warned, her eyes darting between us. "No, it's fine," I interjected, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "I appreciate your perspective, really." But his words gnawed at me. I had raised Elizabeth alone, instilling in her the values of resilience and faith. I had taught her to chase her dreams, to believe in herself, and now I questioned if I had done enough. After lunch, the kids darted off to play, leaving David and me alone. "You know, it's important to let them learn to stand on their own 2 feet, he said, leaning back in his chair. "I just don't want them to become too dependent on you." I could feel my heart rate quicken. "I'm not trying to undermine their independence," I replied, my voice quieter than I intended. "I'm just trying to be a loving grandmother." "Sometimes love means letting go," he countered, his tone dismissive. His words struck a chord, reverberating through my chest. I had spent years building a bond with my daughter and grandchildren, but David's perspective felt like a wall between us. I fought the urge to let my emotions spill over. "Family is about support," I said, my voice firm. "It's not just about letting go." David rolled his eyes, and I felt my heart sink. I wanted to shout, to express the hurt that festered inside me. "I'm trying to be here for them," I wanted to say. "I've sacrificed so much to give them love." But instead, I remained silent, feeling the weight of my own inadequacies pressing down. As the days wore on, I found myself retreating. Each family gathering felt charged, the air thick with unspoken words. I noticed subtle jabs from David, his comments disguised as jokes that chipped away at my confidence. "Oh, Mary, you're still using that old recipe?" Times have changed. Elizabeth's eyes would dart between us, her discomfort palpable. It was as if I was caught in a tug of war, her loyalty to her husband battling against the love she had for me. I felt like a stranger in my own family, and doubt crept in like an unwelcome guest. Did I truly belong here? The nights grew longer, and I lay awake, praying for clarity. The weight of feeling unwelcome gnawed at my soul. I reached for my phone, dialing Susan, my confidant. "Mary, hang in there," she said, her voice warm and reassuring. "You know your worth. Don't let David's words define you." "Sometimes I just feel like I'm in the way," I confessed, tears stinging my eyes. "You're not in the way. You're family. Focus on your strengths, your love for those kids. They need you." Her words were a balm to my aching heart. I took a deep breath, feeling a flicker of hope. I needed to find my strength again. I needed to remember that family, despite its challenges, was built on love and resilience. As I hung up, I made a promise to myself. I would hold on to my faith and my love for my family. I wouldn't let the shadows of doubt consume me. I would find my place, one way or another. But as I prepared to face the next gathering, I felt a growing tension. How much longer could I endure David's jabs? How long before I would find the courage to confront the storm brewing within? I knew a reckoning was coming, and I could only hope it would lead us to a place of healing. The next family gathering arrived sooner than I anticipated. I could feel the weight of the day pressing down on me as I dressed, choosing a soft blue blouse that reminded me of the sky on a clear day. I hoped it would give me strength, a shield against the storm brewing in my heart. As I drove to Elizabeth's, I took a deep breath, reminding myself of the love I held for my family. The laughter of my grandchildren echoed in my mind like a melody, a reminder of the joy I wanted to share. But as I parked the car, a familiar knot twisted in my stomach. Upon entering the house, the scent of fresh baked bread wrapped around me, but it couldn't quite penetrate the tension in the air. I plastered on a smile, hoping to bring some light into the dim corners of the room. Elizabeth greeted me warmly, her eyes bright with affection. "Mum, you made it. Wouldn't miss it for the world," I replied, my heart lifting a little at her warmth. But as I stepped into the living room, David stood there, arms crossed, a scowl etched on his face. "Well, if it isn't the spoiling grandmother," he remarked, his tone sharp. "David?" Elizabeth said, her voice a note of warning. "Just saying what everyone else is thinking," he shot back, his eyes narrowing. I felt the heat rise in my cheeks, and I struggled to keep my composure. "I'm here to help," I said, my voice steady. "The children need love and support. Is that so wrong? They need guidance, not just treats and fun." His words hung heavy, like a cloud ready to burst. I could see the tension ripple through Elizabeth, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. "Maybe we can strike a balance," I suggested, my heart racing. "Kids need both love and structure," David scoffed. "You call it love, I call it enabling. There's a difference." My heart sank. His remarks felt like arrows, aimed straight at my heart. I forced myself to breathe, to stay grounded. I had come here with love, yet here I was, feeling like an intruder in my own family. As lunch was served, I tried to engage with the kids, sharing stories of my own childhood, the adventures I had. They listened, their eyes wide with fascination. I glanced at David, hoping for a sign of approval, but he remained impassive, his fork clinking against his plate like a metronome, counting down my confidence. "Kids today live in a different world," he said, breaking the moment. "They need to know that life isn't all fun and games. It's about responsibility." I felt my heart tighten. I agree, but joy is part of that journey. It gives them strength to face challenges. David waved his hand dismissively. "Joy doesn't pay the bills, Mary." Elizabeth's gaze darted back and forth between us, tension crackling like electricity. "Can we not do this today?" she pleaded, her voice rising slightly. I felt a rush of gratitude towards her, but it also felt like a double-edged sword. I wanted her to stand by me, yet I didn't want to put her in the middle. "Let's enjoy our time together," I said, forcing a smile. "We're family, after all." The laughter of the children filled the room, a sweet balm to my wounded heart. I focused on them, drawing strength from their innocence. We played games, their laughter infectious. Yet, every time David muttered a sarcastic remark, it felt like the ground was shifting beneath my feet. After lunch, the kids dashed off, leaving David and me alone again. I felt a wave of dread wash over me. "You know, Mary, this isn't a competition," he said, leaning back, arms crossed again. "You don't need to win their affection." "Affection isn't a prize to be won," I replied, my voice steady yet soft. "It's about being present, being there for them." "Being present shouldn't mean undermining their parents," he said, his tone dripping with disdain. I felt my chest tighten. "I'm not undermining anyone. I'm just trying to show them love, to be a safe haven in their lives. Safe havens can lead to safe zones where they never learn to face the real world," he countered, his voice cold. The walls felt like they were closing in. I wanted to scream, to let out the hurt that had been festering inside me. "David, I'm not trying to replace you," I said, my voice wavering. "I'm just trying to be their grandmother, to support them in the ways I know how." "You mean the ways you think you know how?" he shot back, his eyes piercing. A silence fell over us, heavy and suffocating. I could feel the hurt bubbling to the surface, threatening to spill over. You know, I raised Elizabeth alone. I did my best to give her the tools she needed to thrive. I thought you'd appreciate that. I appreciate the effort, but children need direction. They need to learn to stand on their own, he said, his tone softening slightly, but the edge remained. And they need love and support to do that, I replied, my voice steadier now. Just then, Elizabeth walked in, her eyes darting between us. Is everything okay? Just a friendly discussion, David said, his tone suddenly lighter. Right, I said, forcing a smile, just trying to understand each other. Can we focus on the kids? Elizabeth suggested, her eyes pleading. I nodded, grateful for her intervention. Of course. As we gathered the children for a game, I felt the weight of my doubts creeping back in. Could I truly navigate this minefield of family dynamics? I wanted to be a supportive grandmother, but David's words echoed in my mind, casting shadows over the love I felt. I needed to find my strength again. I needed to remember that love, even against the odds, could bring healing. As I watched the children laugh and play, I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. Maybe, just maybe, I could carve out my space in this family. But with each gathering, I knew that the storm between David and me would only grow. I had to confront it sooner or later. I could only hope that when the time came, I would find the courage to stand tall, to claim my place in this family built on love, resilience, and faith. The afternoon sun streamed through the window, casting golden rays on the carpet. The children shrieked with delight, their laughter bubbling up like a song. I watched them, my heart swelling with warmth, yet David's disapproving gaze lingered in my mind, a persistent shadow. Shall we play a game? I suggested, hoping to steer the mood back to joy. Yeah, hide and seek, shouted little Sarah, her eyes sparkling. All right then. I clapped my hands, trying to radiate enthusiasm. I'll count, and you all hide. Ready? As I began to count, I could hear the patter of tiny feet dashing away. My heart lightened, the innocence of their play washing over me like a refreshing breeze. But just as I reached 20, a familiar voice broke my concentration. Are you really going to indulge them in this? David's tone was laced with skepticism, pulling me back into the fray. David, it's just a game. They need moments like this, I replied, trying to keep my voice calm as I turned to face him. Moments for what? To escape reality? He shot back, his arms crossed once more, a fortress of judgment. Reality can be harsh, I countered, feeling my pulse quicken. They will learn soon enough, but right now, they need to be kids. Kids need to learn boundaries, Mary. You're not helping them. I took a deep breath. And you're not giving them the space to be themselves. Space? Is that what you call it? I call it neglect. Neglect? I felt my cheeks flush. This is love, David. When did love become a crime? Before he could respond, the children came rushing back, giggling, their faces flushed with excitement. Found the perfect hiding spot, shouted James, his eyes dancing with pride. Good job. I smiled, my heart momentarily lifted. But David's eyes remained stormy, and I felt the weight of his disapproval, like a heavy cloak draped over my shoulders. Let's switch it around, I said, trying to shift the focus back to the game. Now it's your turn to count, James. As he counted, I felt a desperate need to reclaim the joy that was being overshadowed by conflict. I joined the children in their antics, running and hiding, allowing their laughter to wash over me. Yet, even in the laughter, David's voice echoed in my thoughts. You're just encouraging them to avoid responsibility. I tried to push those thoughts aside, telling myself that this was a moment, a precious gift. As James found Sarah tucked behind the curtains, their squeals of joy filled the room, and I smiled genuinely. But the joy was short-lived. When the game ended, the children flopped onto the sofa, panting and exhilarated. Can we have ice cream? Sarah begged, her eyes wide and hopeful. Of course. I'll go get it, I said, eager to pamper them a little. As I moved into the kitchen, I felt David's presence looming behind me. Is this really necessary? He asked, his voice thick with disbelief. They're children, David. They deserve treats, moments of joy, I replied, opening the freezer. They also need to understand that life doesn't revolve around sweets. Why can't it be both? I snapped, feeling the tension pull taut. Why can't we give them joy and teach them responsibility? Because you can't teach them if all you do is spoil them. I turned ice cream tub in hand, my heart pounding. You think I'm spoiling them? I think you're blind to what they really need, he said, his voice firm. Blind? I felt a surge of anger. I'm here, trying to fill their lives with love. Is that so wrong? Yes, if it means they grow up thinking the world bends to their whims. David, they're not spoiled. They're learning that love exists in all shapes and sizes. Love without limits isn't love, it's chaos. I took a step back, the sting of his words hitting deeper than I anticipated. So, you're saying my love is worthless? That all I've done for Elizabeth and these kids means nothing? Not at all, he replied, his tone softening slightly. But there are consequences to your actions, and I'm trying to protect them. Protect them? I echoed, feeling a swell of frustration. Protect them from joy? From love? I'm not the enemy here, David. Just then, Elizabeth entered, her expression caught between concern and confusion. What's going on? Just a little disagreement, David said, his tone suddenly smooth. An argument more like, I corrected, my heart racing. Can we not do this now? She implored, her eyes darting between us. The kids are right there. I'm just trying to help, I said, my voice shaking slightly. Help? David scoffed. By undermining their parents? I felt my heart crack a little more under the weight of his words. I'm not undermining anyone. I'm just trying to be here for them. Maybe you should focus on being here for Elizabeth too, he shot back, the accusation hitting me like a slap. I am here for Elizabeth, I protested, my voice rising. I've always been here. Is that what you call it? David stepped closer, his voice low and intense. You think it's enough just to show up? Showing up is a start. Being present is what matters. Elizabeth, sensing the storm brewing, interrupted. Please, can we just enjoy the ice cream together? Let's not ruin this day. As I looked at my daughter's pleading eyes, I felt a pang of guilt. I didn't want to drag her into our conflict. You're right, Elizabeth. I'm sorry, I said, my voice softening, but David's gaze remained steely. Apologies don't fix everything. I'm just trying to find common ground, I replied, desperately wanting to bridge this divide. To support you both as parents. Support doesn't mean giving in to every whim. I'm not giving in, I insisted, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I'm trying to love them the best way I know how. Elizabeth placed her hand on mine, squeezing gently. Let's just enjoy the moment, please. I nodded, trying to gather my resolve. Ice cream was served, and the children dove in, their faces lighting up with delight. I watched them, feeling a flicker of hope in the midst of the storm. But David's eyes remained fixed on me, a challenge lingering in the air. I knew this battle wasn't over. The conflict simmered just beneath the surface, ready to erupt again. As I took a deep breath, the sweetness of the ice cream melted on my tongue, a momentary distraction from the tension. I hoped that, with time and patience, love could conquer the storm brewing between us. Maybe, just maybe, I could find a way through this. I needed to hold on to that hope, to believe that even in the face of disagreement, we could come together as a family. After all, love, resilience, and faith were the threads that bound us, even when the winds of conflict tried to tear us apart. The ice cream melted slowly, dribbling down the sides of the bowls. I watched as the children giggled and licked their spoons, their innocence a stark contrast to the tension that crackled between David and me. The room hummed with laughter, but I felt like a solitary island amidst a turbulent sea, longing for calm. Can we have sprinkles? James piped up, his eyes wide with excitement. Of course, I replied, forcing a smile. I moved to the cupboard, my heart heavy with unspoken words. Each sprinkle felt like a tiny moment of joy, a reminder that even amidst conflict, joy could still exist. Why do you spoil them, Mary? David's voice cut through my thoughts, sharp and unwelcome. They should learn to appreciate what they have. I turned, the sprinkles clutched tightly in my hand. They do appreciate it, David. They're kids. They know love through joy, through little treats like this. It's how they learn to express their happiness. Joy without limits teaches nothing, he countered, his tone unwavering. You give them everything without letting them earn it. Isn't love about giving freely? I shot back, my voice rising again. When did it become a transaction? Maybe it's not about a transaction, he replied, his gaze steady, but about preparing them for what lies ahead. Life isn't always sweets and sprinkles. True, I breathed, my heart aching. But I want them to have memories filled with laughter, too. Memories that remind them life can be beautiful, even in the chaos. Elizabeth, sensing the tension, stepped in. Can we just enjoy this? Her voice was calm, a soothing balm amidst our storm. Let's make this a happy moment. I nodded, grateful for her presence. The children resumed their chatter, the noise filling the gaps between us. But I couldn't shake the feeling of being pulled apart. As the kids finished their ice cream, I felt a twinge of warmth in my heart. They were so joyful, so alive. I wanted to hold on to that feeling, to wrap it around me like a blanket. I needed to remember that love didn't just exist in grand gestures, it was in the small, simple moments too. Who wants to play outside? I asked, trying to shift the mood. The kids jumped up, eager to run, their laughter echoing in the air. I'll join you, I said, and we all raced to the garden, the grass cool beneath our feet. I watched them chase each other, their energy contagious. David lingered behind, arms crossed, observing. See, this is what they need, I called back, a smile breaking through. Freedom to explore, to be wild. Or wild enough to ignore consequences, he replied, but I chose to ignore him. I knelt down, encouraging them to run faster, to jump higher. Let's play tag, I shouted, and off they went, squealing with delight. The sun bathed us all in warmth, and for a moment, the laughter drowned out the doubts that clung to me. But as I played, I felt David's eyes on me. He was still there, a shadow at the edge of my joy. I could feel the weight of his disapproval. Did he not see how happy they were? Did he not understand that these moments mattered? The game continued, and soon I became breathless, my heart racing. I joined in the laughter, trying to absorb every second. But David's presence loomed like a cloud, dark and heavy. After a while, the kids collapsed onto the grass, panting. That was the best, Sarah exclaimed, her cheeks flushed. See? I smiled, feeling a flicker of triumph. This is what it's all about, I guess, David said, though his tone didn't match the joy in the air. But it can't always be this way. Why not? I challenged, my frustration bubbling back to the surface. Why can't we create a balance? A space where they can feel loved and learn responsibility? Because you're not listening to what they need, he replied, crossing his arms tighter. You're so focused on being the fun one that you're losing sight of the bigger picture. I took a deep breath, feeling the sting of his words. And you're so focused on structure that you're missing out on their joy. Joy without foundation is fleeting, Mary, he shot back. They need to understand that love comes with responsibility. Love is also about being present, about creating memories that last, I said, my voice steady. I want them to remember their childhood as a time filled with laughter, not just rules. Then you risk them becoming ill-prepared for the world, he countered, his voice firm. Is that really what you think of me? I felt the hurt pierce through. That I'm ill-preparing them? I think you're making it harder for them to learn how to navigate life's challenges, he replied. Elizabeth stepped forward, her eyes shining with determination. Can we just focus on the moment? We're all here together, and that's what matters. David's gaze softened slightly, and I felt a flicker of hope. You're right, Liz. Let's not let this ruin our time together. Exactly, I echoed, feeling a wave of gratitude towards my daughter. We're all family. We should support one another. But I knew the battle was not over. As the children giggled and chased each other again, I felt a tug in my heart. Love was a journey, one filled with ups and downs. I hoped that amidst the disagreements, we could find our way back to each other. In the quiet moments that followed, I took a deep breath, determined to remain steadfast. I wanted to believe that love, resilience, and faith could guide us through the storm, even when the winds of conflict threatened to tear us apart. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the garden, I clung to that hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could forge a path forward together. The golden light of the setting sun seemed to dance around us, yet the tension remained like an uninvited guest at a family gathering. I watched the children dart across the grass, their laughter vibrant and full of life, but every giggle was a reminder of the unspoken chasm between David and me. I wanted to bask in the warmth of our togetherness, but it was hard to ignore the frost that lingered in his eyes. Let's have a race, James shouted, his enthusiasm bubbling over. I joined in, feeling the pulse of my heart quicken with excitement. The kids lined up, ready to bolt, and I felt a surge of joy as I took my place beside them. "On your marks, get set, go," I yelled, and off they flew, their small legs pumping furiously. I sprinted after them, laughter spilling from my lips. But even as I ran, I could feel David's gaze, sharp and critical, weighing on me like a heavy cloak. "Mary, you're going to tire them out," he called, his voice steady and disapproving. I glanced back, trying to catch his eye, but he stood firm, arms crossed, his stance rigid. "Let them have fun, David," I shouted back, a hint of desperation creeping into my tone. "They need this. Fun doesn't mean they can ignore their limits," he countered, a frown etched deep into his brow. I felt a rush of anger fueled by the joy around us. As the race concluded, cheers erupted. The kids collapsed onto the grass, panting, faces flushed. I sank beside them, their joy infectious. "That was amazing," I exclaimed, basking in their jubilance. "Can we do it again?" Sarah asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Maybe later," I replied, turning back to David. "See how happy they are? This is what childhood should feel like." He shook his head, frustration etched in every line of his face. "They're going to crash, Mary. You're pushing them too hard without teaching them balance." "Balance?" I echoed, incredulous. "What is balance if not letting them enjoy their youth? They'll learn responsibility in time." "Not if they're always chasing the next thrill," he shot back. "You're not preparing them for the real world." "Neither are you," I retorted, feeling the heat rise in my chest. "You're so focused on rules that you're missing the beauty of being present." A silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. I felt the children's innocence surround us like a protective bubble, but David was relentless. "Maybe the real beauty is knowing when to step back," he replied, his tone clipped. "It's about guiding them, not just being their friend." I swallowed hard, trying to keep my composure. Being their friend doesn't mean I'm not guiding them. I want them to feel loved, not just disciplined. "Love is more than fun, Mary," he said, his voice softening just a touch. "It's about teaching them the value of hard work." "Of course it is, but they're not in the workforce yet, David." I threw my hands up in exasperation. "They're kids. This is their time to play, to explore, to learn through joy." "Joy without limits can lead to entitlement," he countered, the edge returning to his voice. I took a deep breath, trying to quell the fire within. "And what about the joy they'll carry into adulthood? Memories filled with laughter? Those are what will sustain them, not just the lessons of responsibility you're so focused on." "Memories don't pay the bills," he replied, the finality of his statement hanging in the air. Elizabeth stepped forward, clearly agitated by the escalating tension. "Can we not turn everything into a debate? We're here to enjoy each other's company." Her plea felt like a balm, but David's eyes remained locked onto mine, challenging and unyielding. "You're missing the point, Liz. It's about balance." I felt a flicker of gratitude for Elizabeth's interruption. "I appreciate your concern, David. I really do. But I believe joy is just as important as discipline. They learn through both." "Then you risk them growing up unprepared," he said, his gaze unwavering. "Maybe you should trust that I know how to love my grandchildren," I shot back, frustration boiling over. I raised Elizabeth. "She turned out just fine." "Did she?" David replied, his words cutting deep. "She's still searching for her way, struggling with life's pressures. Maybe if she'd had more guidance, it wouldn't be so hard." The accusation stung. My heart ached, the weight of his words pressing down on me, but I refused to back down. "Elizabeth is strong, David. She's resilient. I taught her that, and I'll do the same for my grandchildren." "Is that really what you think?" he asked, his voice low and serious. "That your love alone is enough?" "Yes," I exclaimed, my voice rising with emotion. "Because love is the foundation. It's what gives them the strength to tackle whatever comes their way." David stared at me, his expression hard to read. The air felt charged, thick with unspoken truths and unresolved feelings. "Maybe you're both right," Elizabeth said, stepping between us. "But can we find a way to honor both perspectives? There's room for love and learning." Her words hung in the air, a tentative bridge between our worlds. I could see the glimmer of hope in her eyes, and I wanted to believe that we could find common ground. David's expression softened slightly, but there was still a storm brewing behind his gaze. "Maybe there can be a balance," he conceded, though uncertainty lingered in his voice. Let's work on it together, I suggested, the weight of the moment settling in. We're family after all, we can support each other. Agreed, Elizabeth chimed in, her voice steady. We need each other. For a brief moment, I felt the tension ease, like the sun breaking through the clouds. Yet I knew it wouldn't be easy. Old habits die hard, and our differences ran deep. But as I watched my grandchildren chase each other across the garden, I clung to hope. Together, we could navigate this path, one step at a time. With a renewed sense of purpose, I took a deep breath. Love, resilience, and faith would guide us through the storm. I was determined to find a way to embrace both joy and responsibility, to create a family dynamic built on understanding. As the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, I felt a flicker of optimism. Maybe, just maybe, we could forge a new path forward, together. The laughter of my grandchildren faded into the background as I mulled over the conversation with David. His words echoed in my mind, a constant reminder of the divide between us. I looked out at the garden, the children tumbling in the grass, their carefree giggles a balm to my aching heart. They were a reminder of what truly mattered: love, joy, and the fleeting nature of childhood. I wanted to hold on to this moment, to let it wash over me like a gentle tide. Let's go have a picnic, I suggested suddenly, inspired by the beauty of the day. The kids perked up, their faces lighting with enthusiasm. We can spread a blanket, bring out the sandwiches, and enjoy the sunshine. Yay! James cheered, already racing towards the kitchen. Sarah followed suit, her little feet pattering excitedly behind him. Elizabeth smiled, her eyes sparkling with the prospect of a simple family gathering. David, however, stood at the edge of the garden, his arms crossed once more. A picnic? Shouldn't we focus on something more educational? He asked, though his voice lacked the bite it had held earlier. I shrugged, unwilling to let his skepticism dampen our spirits. They can learn through play, David. Life isn't all about structure. Sometimes, the best lessons come from laughter and shared moments, Elizabeth interjected, her voice calm yet firm. Mum's right. We can have fun and learn at the same time. Remember that time we made cookies and talked about measurements? That was a lesson too. David uncrossed his arms, his posture softening as he considered her words. I suppose. Let's just enjoy today, I encouraged, hoping to ease the tension. We can worry about lessons tomorrow. With a silent nod, David relented, joining us as we spread the blanket under a sprawling oak tree. The sun filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on the ground. I felt a flicker of hope as we settled down, the children piling plates high with food. Who wants to help me make a sandwich? I asked, my heart swelling with anticipation. I do, Sarah exclaimed, her hands clapping together. With her help, I layered slices of ham and cheese, her tiny fingers eager to add a sprinkle of love to each creation. We laughed as the sandwiches took on ridiculous shapes, and soon James joined us, determined to create the biggest sandwich ever. Look, Mum, it's a tower, he shouted, holding up his towering creation with pride. That's a masterpiece, I declared, beaming at him. You're an artist, James. David watched, his expression softening as the children reveled in their achievements. I could see the shift in him, the gradual melting of the barriers he had built. All right, let's dig in, I announced, and we all grabbed our sandwiches, indulging in the simple pleasure of food and family. As we ate, I encouraged the children to share stories. Tell us about your favorite memory, I prompted. James spoke first, his voice animated. Last summer we went to the beach. I built the biggest sandcastle ever. Oh, I remember that. Elizabeth chimed in, her eyes sparkling. You were so proud. Then we had ice cream, Sarah added, her smile wide. The stories flowed like a gentle stream, each memory stitching us closer together. I felt a warmth spreading within me, a reminder of the power of shared experiences. It was healing, like the warm sun on my face, chasing away the shadows that had lingered since my arrival. David, too, began to share. I remember camping in the backyard with you both, he said, his tone softer. We roasted marshmallows and told ghost stories. The children giggled, their imaginations ignited. Can we do that again? Sarah asked, her eyes wide with excitement. Of course, David responded, a smile creeping onto his lips. "We'll make it a family tradition." As the picnic continued, I caught David's eye, and for the first time, I saw a glimmer of understanding. It was as if the walls he had built were beginning to crumble, brick by brick. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden hue over everything. I felt gratitude wash over me for this moment, for these connections that were slowly being mended. After we finished eating, I suggested a game of hide and seek. "Let's create new memories," I said, my heart racing with excitement. "Me first!" James shouted, and he darted off, counting loudly while the rest of us scattered. The thrill of the chase filled the air, laughter echoing through the garden. As I crouched behind a bush, I could hear my grandchildren's excited giggles and David's deeper chuckle. It was a sound I wanted to hold on to, a reminder that joy could bridge the gaps between us. "Found you, Mom!" James exclaimed, his face beaming with pride as he spotted me. We continued playing, the sun casting long shadows as it sank lower. Each laugh, each shout drew us closer, weaving a tapestry of connection that felt stronger than before. Eventually, we flopped onto the grass, breathless and happy, our hearts full. David lay next to me, and for a moment, silence enveloped us, but it was a comfortable silence, filled with unspoken words of hope and understanding. "You know," he said quietly, "I've been too hard on you." I turned to him, surprised. "It's okay, David. We all want what's best for them." "I just want them to be ready for life," he admitted, vulnerability slipping through his usually stoic demeanor. "But maybe I've been too rigid." "Love and guidance can coexist," I replied gently. "We can show them both sides." He nodded, a soft smile breaking through. "Maybe we can learn from each other." The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. In that moment, I felt a renewed sense of hope. Perhaps our family could find a way to embrace both joy and responsibility, weaving together our different perspectives into something beautiful. "Let's make this a regular thing," I suggested, my heart swelling with excitement. "Picnics, camping, laughter. We can build a strong foundation for our grandchildren." David met my gaze, and I could see the possibility reflected back. "Agreed," he said, a newfound warmth in his voice. As we gathered our things and prepared to head, inside, I felt the weight of the world lift from my shoulders. We were still a work in progress, but hope flickered brightly, guiding us forward. With faith and love as our compass, we would navigate this journey together, one precious memory at a time. The next day dawned clear and bright, the sun casting a gentle glow over Elizabeth's home. I stepped outside, feeling the cool breeze touch my skin, a reminder of the fresh start we'd begun. As I sipped my tea, I reflected on the day before, the laughter and warmth still echoing in my heart. I wanted to build on that momentum. "Mary!" Elizabeth called from the kitchen, her voice warm and inviting. "Can you help me with something?" "Of course," I replied, eager to embrace the day's possibilities. I found her surrounded by flour and sugar, the familiar scent of baking filling the room once again. "Making cookies?" I asked, my heart lifting at the sight. "Just a batch for the kids," she said, her hands busy mixing. "But I thought we could make some for David, too. He's been working so hard lately." "Good idea," I said, rolling up my sleeves. "A little sweetness might help soften him up." We shared a laugh, the kind that melted any lingering tension from yesterday. As we baked, I shared stories of my own childhood, the trials and triumphs, weaving a tapestry of resilience and faith. Elizabeth listened intently, her eyes lighting up with each tale. "I wish I had known how tough it was for you, Mum. You've done so much." I paused, feeling the swell of pride. "It wasn't easy, but I learned to embrace the challenges. They shape us." "Like the kids," she said, nodding toward the living room where they played. "They need to learn to navigate their own paths." "Exactly," I replied, my heart swelling with hope. "We can guide them, but they must find their way." After we baked, the warm cookies nestled in a tin, I decided it was time to check on David. I found him in his study, poring over documents, his brow furrowed in concentration. The room was cluttered with papers, a reflection of the weight he carried. "David," I said softly, stepping inside, "can we talk?" He looked up, surprise flickering across his face. "Sure, what's on your mind?" I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "I wanted to say thank you for yesterday. It felt like we connected a bit." He regarded me thoughtfully, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his features. "I've been tough on you, haven't I?" "Maybe a bit," I said, a smile tugging at my lips. "But I understand where you're coming from. We all want what's best for the kids." He ran a hand through his hair, a sign of his growing awareness. "I guess I just worry about them getting hurt. Life can be hard." "It can," I agreed, stepping closer. "But they need to learn how to rise after falling. That's where growth happens." David nodded slowly, weighing my words. "Maybe I've been focusing too much on my fears instead of their potential." "Fear can be a cage," I said, my voice steady. "Let's open the door and let them explore." He looked out the window, lost in thought. "You're right. I want them to trust themselves, but I don't want to let go completely." "Trust is built through experience," I encouraged. "Let them stumble a bit. They'll learn to stand tall." He turned to me, his expression softening. "I appreciate your perspective, Mary. It's just hard to change." "It is," I replied, hope blooming in my chest. "But we don't have to do it alone. We can walk this path together." As we spoke, I sensed a shift in him, a willingness to embrace vulnerability. It was as if the walls crumbled slightly, allowing a glimmer of light to seep through. "Let's make a pact," David suggested, a hint of determination in his voice, "to encourage the kids to take risks, to fail and learn." "I'd like that," I said, feeling a rush of excitement. "We can be their safety net." With that, we sealed our agreement with a handshake, a tangible promise to navigate the challenges together. "Now, how about some cookies?" I grinned, holding the tin aloft. David chuckled, the warmth returning to his eyes. "You know the way to my heart, Mary." We joined Elizabeth and the kids, sharing stories and cookies that melted in our mouths. Laughter bubbled up, intertwining with the aroma of sweet treats. As the day unfolded, we played games, but this time, there was an undercurrent of unity, a shared purpose. David actively engaged with the children, encouraging them to try new things, to take bold steps. I saw the joy in his eyes as he cheered them on. "Let's build a fort," James shouted, his energy infectious. "Great idea," David replied, diving into the task with enthusiasm. The children squealed with delight, their laughter ringing through the house. I watched as David embraced the chaos, his earlier rigidity fading into the background. "Look, Mum," Sarah exclaimed, tugging at my arm. "We made a castle." "That's magnificent," I praised, my heart swelling. "You've all done a wonderful job." David beamed at the children, pride radiating from him. "This is teamwork," he declared, pulling them in for a group hug. In that moment, I felt a surge of gratitude. We were weaving a new narrative together, one grounded in love, understanding, and the beauty of shared experiences. As evening approached, we gathered in the living room, the golden light of the setting sun spilling through the windows. David turned to me, a newfound openness in his gaze. "I've realized that life isn't just about structure, it's about connection." "Yes," I said, my heart soaring, "and we can create a balance." "Together," he added, the warmth between us palpable. With that, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. We were on the brink of something beautiful, a family growing closer, embracing both joy and responsibility. In that moment, I knew we could face whatever challenges lay ahead. With faith as our anchor and love as our guide, we would navigate this journey together, one precious memory at a time. The next morning, a soft light filtered through the curtains, casting gentle shadows across the room. I woke up with a sense of anticipation. The air felt different, charged with possibility. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were on the brink of something transformative. As I sipped my tea, I reflected on the warmth of the previous day, the laughter, the shared moments, the promise of a new beginning. "Good morning, Mum." Elizabeth greeted me, her hair tousled, a bright smile illuminating her face. "The kids can't wait to show you what they've been working on." "What's that?" I asked, my curiosity piqued. "They've been building a treasure map," she said, pouring herself a cup of coffee. "They want you to help them go on a treasure hunt today." "Count me in," I exclaimed, excitement bubbling up inside me. The thought of adventure, however small, filled my heart with joy. As we gathered around the kitchen table, the children bounded in, their faces lit with enthusiasm. "We made clues," James declared, holding up a crumpled piece of paper. "You have to solve them to find the treasure." "Fantastic," I responded, feeling the energy in the room lift. "Let's see what you've got." The children took turns reading their riddles, their little voices filled with pride. Each clue was a reflection of their creativity, a glimpse into their budding imaginations. "The first clue is where we keep the cookies," Sarah announced, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Let's go," David chimed in, his earlier reservations seemingly forgotten. He led the way, a playful spirit emerging as he joined in their excitement. We raced to the kitchen, laughter echoing off the walls, and I felt a flicker of hope ignite. Perhaps this was the day we would forge deeper connections, discovering new layers of ourselves as a family. As we arrived at the cookie jar, I crouched down, pretending to inspect it. I wonder what the next clue could be," I mused aloud, encouraging the children's imaginations to soar. "It's under the table!" James shouted, pointing dramatically. "Bingo!" I replied, lifting the jar and finding a folded note hidden underneath. I read it aloud, my voice animated. "To find the treasure, you must be brave. Look where the birds like to wave." "Outside!" Sarah exclaimed, her excitement palpable. "Let's go!" We hurried to the garden, the sun warming our faces. David knelt beside the bird feeder, his hands brushing against the grass. "This is where they come to eat," he explained, a hint of awe in his voice. "It's like a restaurant for the birds." I watched as he gently filled the feeder, the children gathering around him. It was a simple act, yet it illustrated his growing connection with them. I could see him embracing the role of a nurturing father, letting go of his earlier rigidity. "Look, Mum," James pointed skyward. "A robin." We paused, marveling at the vibrant red breast of the bird perched nearby. "Nature is full of surprises," I said, feeling the unity among us deepen. "Just like our treasure hunt." After a few moments, Sarah spotted something glimmering in the grass. "There!" she squealed, darting forward. We all gathered around as she unearthed a small, shiny box, its surface reflecting the sunlight. "The treasure!" she shouted, her voice bursting with joy. "Open it!" David urged, his eyes filled with anticipation. As Sarah lifted the lid, gasps filled the air. Inside were small trinkets, a collection of colorful stones, each one unique. "They're beautiful!" Elizabeth exclaimed, her voice filled with wonder. "Each one is special, just like you," I said, my heart swelling with pride. "These treasures remind us of our journey, the moments we've shared." David nodded, his gaze lingering on the children. "Let's make this a family tradition," he suggested, the warmth in his voice unmistakable. "We can explore together, discover new things." "Yes, a treasure hunt every month," James chimed in, his enthusiasm infectious. As we settled down on the grass, surrounded by the treasures we had found, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. This was more than just a game. It was a beautiful tapestry of discovery, woven with threads of adventure, laughter, and love. "Let's make a pact," I suggested, the idea blooming in my heart. "Every month, we'll set out on a new adventure. We'll discover more about each other and ourselves." Elizabeth's eyes sparkled. "I love that idea." David smiled, a genuine warmth radiating from him. "Me too. It's a chance to bond and create memories." The children squealed in delight, their voices a chorus of joy. I could see the transformation in David, a man willing to embrace vulnerability and connection. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden hue over our gathering, I realized we were discovering something deeper ourselves. The treasure wasn't just the shiny baubles in the box, it was the love we shared, the moments that defined us, and the connections we nurtured. Later that evening, as we gathered around the dinner table, the atmosphere was electric with camaraderie. David shared a story from his childhood, his voice animated as he recounted the adventures he had with his own family. "I remember building tree houses with my dad," he said, a nostalgic smile lighting up his face. "We thought we were invincible up there, like kings of the world." "Did you have a treasure map?" James asked, his eyes wide with curiosity. "Of course," David replied, laughter bubbling up. "Only, we didn't find jewels, just a stash of old action figures." "But those were treasures to you," I added, my heart swelling with the warmth of shared stories. "It's what we make of our experiences that counts." Our conversation flowed easily, a river of connection weaving through the evening. As we shared our own tales, I felt a sense of liberation. The walls that had once divided us were crumbling, replaced by understanding and acceptance. "Let's make it a point to share more stories," Elizabeth suggested, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "We can learn from each other's journeys." "Absolutely," I agreed, feeling the strength of our bond solidifying. Each story is a piece of our history, a thread in the fabric of our family. As the night wore on, we laughed, reminisced, and even shared our dreams for the future. I felt a sense of purpose, realizing that our journey together was just beginning. With every word spoken, we were unearthing layers of ourselves, discovering strength in vulnerability, and finding joy in connection. It was clear that as we embraced one another's stories, we were not just a family, we were a tapestry of love, resilience, and faith, ready to navigate the challenges ahead. In that moment, I knew we were on a path of discovery, one that would lead us to deeper understanding, forgiveness, and ultimately, a beautiful redemption. Together, we would face whatever lay ahead, bound by love, faith, and the treasure of our shared experiences. As the evening wore on, the warmth of connection wrapped around us like a cozy blanket. The children, their cheeks flushed with excitement, were busy planning our next treasure hunt. I watched them, my heart swelling with pride. These little ones were the embodiment of innocence and joy, and they were finding strength in family, even amidst the complexities that sometimes clouded our lives. "Can we have a pirate theme next time?" James suggested, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "We can dress up and make maps." "Absolutely," Elizabeth replied, her enthusiasm contagious. "And we can hide the treasure in the park." I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. This was the spirit we needed: adventure, imagination, and the courage to explore. It was a reminder that even in the face of challenges, victory lay in our ability to find joy and unity. David leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You know, when I was a kid, we used to pretend we were on a quest for hidden treasure. It taught us to work together, to solve problems. I think it's important for the kids to learn that." "Exactly," I chimed in, my voice steady and filled with conviction. "Life is full of obstacles, but every challenge is an opportunity to grow. We're teaching them to be resilient." Elizabeth nodded, her eyes reflecting understanding. "And to lean on each other, that's what family is all about." I could see David's perspective softening, his earlier rigidity beginning to melt away. He was embracing the idea of connection, of nurturing. "Maybe I've been too focused on discipline," he admitted, a hint of vulnerability in his tone. "I want to be a good dad, but I don't want to stifle their creativity." "You're doing great, David," I reassured him, my heart swelling with pride for his willingness to change. "It's about balance. They need structure, yes, but they also need to explore and dream." The conversation flowed seamlessly, each word weaving a thread of understanding between us. I could see the tension that had once existed beginning to dissipate, replaced by a shared commitment to our family's growth. Later, as we cleared the table, I caught a glimpse of the children whispering excitedly. Curiosity piqued, I moved closer to overhear. "What if we write a book about our adventures?" Sarah proposed, her face lighting up. "A treasure book," James added enthusiastically. "We can fill it with stories and drawings." I couldn't help but smile. Their imaginations were flourishing, and it was a beautiful sight. "That's a brilliant idea. You can document each treasure hunt and turn it into something special." David looked over, his expression thoughtful. "We could work on it together," he suggested, a newfound enthusiasm lighting up his eyes. "Each of us could contribute a chapter." Elizabeth's face lit up. "Let's do it! We can call it The Adventures of the Family Treasure Hunters." As the children squealed with delight, I felt a wave of joy wash over me. This was victory not just in the moment, but in the realization that we were becoming a stronger family, united in purpose and creativity. That night, as I tucked the children into bed, I felt a sense of fulfillment. "Remember, my loves," I said softly, brushing James's hair off his forehead. "Every adventure is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and always remember to lean on each other." "Good night, Grandma," they chimed in unison, their voices sleepy yet filled with warmth. As I closed the door, I felt a sense of peace envelop me. I had come to Elizabeth's home to help, to be a part of their lives. But in doing so, I realized I was finding my own place within this family tapestry. The next day, David and I found ourselves alone in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. The air was thick with the aroma of fresh coffee and sizzling bacon. There was a lightness in the atmosphere, the heaviness of the past slowly lifting. "About yesterday," David began, his voice steady. "I appreciate your support. I've been thinking about how to be more present for the kids. I don't want to be just the strict dad." I turned to him, my heart brimming with understanding. "It's a journey, David. We all have our roles, and it's important to adapt. You can be both disciplinary and nurturing." He nodded, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "I want to foster their independence, but I also want to be a part of every experience." "That's the spirit," I encouraged, my voice warm and steady. "By sharing these moments, you're teaching them about love and trust. It's more than just discipline. It's creating a safe space for them to flourish." As the children joined us for breakfast, the laughter and chatter filled the room, an echo of the love that was blossoming. David looked at them, his heart visibly swelling. I could see the shift in him, the desire to embrace every aspect of fatherhood, to nurture their dreams while guiding them through life's challenges. After breakfast, we all gathered in the living room, excited to brainstorm ideas for our treasure book. The children were bubbling with energy, their imaginations running wild. David's face lit up as he contributed ideas, and I felt a sense of pride for how far we had come as a family. "Let's each draw a treasure map for our next adventure," Sarah suggested, her eyes wide with excitement. "I'll draw mine like a pirate's," James chimed in, his enthusiasm contagious. Elizabeth smiled at her children, and I could see the pride reflected in her eyes. "And we'll write about what we discover along the way," she added. "Every treasure hunt will have a story." As they began to sketch, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. This was a moment of victory, a moment of unity, creativity, and love. We were no longer bound by the past. We were paving the way to a brighter future together. With each passing day, I could see the threads of our family fabric intertwining more tightly. David's transformation was inspiring, and I was grateful for the opportunity to witness it. He was learning to embrace vulnerability, to communicate openly, and to connect deeply with his children. As we embarked on this journey of discovery, I found myself reflecting on my own path. The moments of doubt I had experienced as a mother were now overshadowed by the joy of watching Elizabeth thrive as a parent. It was a testament to the power of resilience and faith. In the weeks that followed, our treasure hunts became a cherished routine. Each adventure was filled with laughter, creativity, and a renewed sense of belonging. David's involvement deepened, and I could see the children thriving under his guidance. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over our gathering, I felt an overwhelming sense of hope. We were not just a family. We were a team, navigating life's challenges together. We had turned a corner, embracing our past while forging a new path filled with love, understanding, and endless possibilities. Victory wasn't just a destination, it was the journey we were creating together. It was the laughter shared, the stories told, and the bonds forged in love. As I looked around at my family, I knew we were strong enough to face whatever lay ahead together. The sun rose the next morning, painting the kitchen in a warm glow, as I prepared breakfast with Elizabeth. The aroma of pancakes filled the air, and the joy of family surrounded us. David entered, his hair tousled, a sleepy smile gracing his face. "Morning, everyone," he said, his voice still thick with slumber. "What's the plan for today?" I looked at Elizabeth, who shrugged playfully. "How about a treasure hunt in the garden? We could use the maps we made." David's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. "Count me in! Let's see if I can find a treasure of my own!" As the children raced in, their laughter echoed through the house. I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. We were not just a family, we were a community, bound by love and shared experiences. We gathered our supplies, a few old boxes, some glitter, and crayons for decoration. The excitement was palpable. I watched as David helped Sarah carefully fill one of the boxes with bits of shiny trinkets. "This will be our treasure chest," he said, his tone nurturing. "Make sure you don't peek," James shouted, trying to keep the mystery alive. "Don't worry, I won't spoil the surprise," David replied, chuckling. This was the playful side of him I had longed to see, and it filled my heart with warmth. Outside, the garden was a lush canvas, ripe for exploration. The children scattered, each clutching their treasure maps. Elizabeth and David worked together, guiding them through the adventure. My heart swelled with pride as I observed their teamwork. "Look, Grandma," Sarah called, holding up a shimmering stone. "Is this a treasure?" "Absolutely. Every find tells a story," I replied, my voice filled with encouragement. As they dug through the soil, David knelt beside them, his hands dirty but his spirit soaring. You see, it's not just about finding things, it's about the journey and what we learn along the way. I watched him, the man who had once seemed so stern, now transformed by the love of his family. It struck me how faith had guided our path, how it had opened his heart to the beauty of connection and vulnerability. The laughter echoed around us, a sweet melody. "Let's take a break," Elizabeth suggested, pulling out a picnic blanket. We gathered around, our treasures scattered before us like a tapestry of memories in the making. "Each of these finds is like a little piece of our lives," I said, my voice steady, carrying the weight of truth. "They remind us that together we can uncover beauty even in the dirt." David nodded, his gaze thoughtful. "And every treasure has a story, just like us." The children munched on sandwiches, their little faces lit with joy. I felt a sense of peace enveloping us, a moment of divine connection. This was what family was about: sharing, learning, and growing together. After lunch, we decided to continue our adventure. The garden became our playground, a canvas for creativity. As the children drew and explored, David and I exchanged glances, a silent understanding passing between us. "Thank you for being here," he said quietly, his voice sincere. "I didn't know how much I needed this." I smiled back, my heart brimming with gratitude. "We're all in this together, David. It's a journey of faith and family." As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over our gathering, I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. This wasn't just a day of fun, it was a testament to our growth. We had turned conflict into connection, pain into purpose. "Let's share our treasures," Elizabeth suggested, her eyes sparkling. We each took turns telling the stories behind our finds, laughter ringing through the air. "I found this rock, and it reminds me of our first family trip," James shared, his voice filled with nostalgia. David chimed in, "And this shiny coin reminds me of the time we went to the beach. Remember how we made that sandcastle?" With each shared story, we wove a tapestry of our lives, rich with experiences and lessons learned. I felt the power of forgiveness, healing, and redemption in the room. As night fell, the stars began to twinkle above us. I glanced at my family, David, Elizabeth, and the children. They were laughing, their joy infectious. I realized that in moments of darkness, we had chosen to turn towards the light, embracing faith and love. "Let's never forget that the real treasure is the bond we share," I said, my voice steady. "Always, Grandma," they chimed in unison, their voices filled with certainty. This was our legacy, a family united by love, striving for growth, and learning the true meaning of resilience. As the stars shone brightly overhead, I knew we were embarking on a new chapter, a journey of faith, love, and endless adventures. We had found our way, and together we would navigate whatever lay ahead. Victory wasn't just a distant dream, it was woven into the very fabric of our lives. Each day was a reminder of our strength, our love, and our unwavering faith in one another. As I closed my eyes that night, I felt a deep sense of peace, knowing we were ready to face the world together. The morning sun poured through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow over our breakfast spread. Elizabeth flipped pancakes with a skilled hand, while I set the table, grateful for this moment. Laughter filled the air, a sweet harmony of family life. But beneath the surface something was brewing, an undercurrent of tension that I could sense but not yet name. As the children finished their breakfast, David entered, looking preoccupied. "Morning, everyone," he said, but his voice lacked the usual cheer. I glanced at Elizabeth, her brow furrowed in concern. "Everything all right?" she asked, her tone gentle. David shrugged. "Just work stuff, nothing I can't handle." But I knew him better than that. His eyes flickered with worry, and I felt a pang of empathy. "If you need to talk," I began, but he waved it off. Really, it's fine. Just a few deadlines. The kids, oblivious to the adult struggles, scampered off to play. I watched them go, wishing I could shield their innocence from the weight of the world. After breakfast, David retreated to the living room, his shoulders tense. I followed, hoping to ease the burden. "You know, David, it's okay to lean on us. We're family." He looked at me, frustration flashing in his eyes. "I appreciate that, Mary, but I've got this. I don't want to bring everyone down. Confiding in us doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I just don't want to be a burden. You all have enough on your plates." I stepped closer, my heart aching for him. "We're in this together. You've shown that to the kids, and it's time you let us be there for you too." David's expression softened, but he remained guarded. "Thanks, Mary, but I'll pull through." I nodded, knowing he needed time. I returned to the kitchen, where Elizabeth was preparing snacks for the kids' afternoon playdate. "He's struggling, isn't he?" she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, feeling the weight of our shared concern. "He's trying to carry it all alone. I wish he'd let us help." The afternoon was a blur of laughter and games, but David remained distanced, lost in his thoughts. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows, I overheard him speaking on the phone in the other room. His voice was tense, sharp. Words like financial strain and deadline echoed through the walls. I exchanged a worried glance with Elizabeth. "He's holding back a storm," I said quietly. "Maybe we should just let him be," she suggested, but I could see the unease in her eyes. "No, we can't stand by. He needs to know he's not alone." That night, as the children slept, David finally opened up. We gathered in the living room, and I could see the conflict in his eyes. "I've been keeping things from you all," he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "What do you mean?" Elizabeth asked, her tone laced with concern. "I haven't been honest about work. There are risks, and I'm worried about finances. I didn't want to worry you." The room fell silent, the weight of his words heavy in the air. My heart sank, and I felt the need to reach out. "David, we're a family. We face things together. You should have told us. I thought I could manage it," he replied, guilt creeping into his voice. "I didn't want to burden you." "Burden? Family is about sharing that weight," I replied, my voice steady. "You've taught the kids that. It's time you believe it too." He looked down, shame washing over him. "I'm sorry. I thought I could protect you all from this." Elizabeth moved closer, her eyes filled with understanding. "Dad, it's okay to ask for help. We're stronger together." "I just wanted to be the strong one," he admitted, his voice breaking. "Strength isn't only in standing tall, it's in reaching out too," I said, my heart aching for his struggle. The conversation shifted, evolving into a discussion about our financial concerns. David laid out the challenges he faced, his voice steadying as we listened and offered support. We brainstormed solutions, each idea igniting a sense of hope. As the night wore on, our fears transformed into a plan. We laughed and strategized, weaving a tapestry of unity. My heart swelled with pride as I watched David's tension ease. "Thank you for being here," he said, his voice genuine. "I didn't realize how much I needed this." "Just remember, we're all in this together," I reminded him, embracing the warmth of our connection. The next morning the sun rose, painting the sky in shades of gold. I felt a renewed energy coursing through me. As I prepared breakfast, I knew we were stronger, more connected than ever before. David entered, a lightness in his step. "Morning, everyone." "Morning," the kids shouted, enthusiasm bubbling over. As we gathered around the table, I could sense an unspoken bond. "Let's celebrate our new beginning," I suggested, my heart full. "What do you mean?" David asked, curiosity sparking in his eyes. "Let's plan a family outing, something fun together," I replied, beaming at the idea. Elizabeth's face lit up. "Yes, how about a trip to the zoo?" David's smile widened, his eyes sparkling. "I'm in. It sounds perfect." And just like that, we turned the page, ready to embrace new experiences together. With every challenge we faced, faith guided us, reminding us that love conquers all. As we headed out that day, hand in hand, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. We had weathered the storm, emerging stronger and more united. The treasures we uncovered were not just material, they were the bonds we forged, the stories we shared, and the love that carried us through. With each step forward, I knew we would continue to grow, navigating life's journey together, with faith lighting our path. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden glow over the park as we arrived for our family outing. Children's laughter floated on the breeze, a sweet melody that warmed my heart. Elizabeth and David led the way, hand in hand, while the kids raced ahead, their joy infectious. I felt a flicker of hope, a sense that today could mark a turning point for us all. As we settled onto a picnic blanket, the aroma of sandwiches and fruit filled the air. I watched the children devour their food, their faces smeared with peanut butter and jelly, and my heart swelled with love. This was what family meant, these moments of bliss, the simple togetherness that seemed so elusive just days ago. David smiled at me, his earlier tension replaced by a glimmer of ease. "Thanks for pushing us to do this, Mary," he said, his tone warm and sincere. "I think we all needed it." "Family is everything," I replied, feeling the weight of our shared struggles lift. "It's about creating memories, no matter how small." As the kids finished their lunch, I suggested a game of tag. They cheered, their spirits ignited, and soon chaos erupted. Laughter echoed as they chased one another, their carefree energy lighting up the park. I joined in, feeling the rush of joy wash over me. In those moments, I was reminded of the resilience we all carried, the power of love to heal wounds and bridge gaps. But then, amid the laughter, I caught sight of David standing, alone, his expression shifting. The shadows crept back into his eyes. I felt a tug in my heart. "Let's bring him in," I whispered to Elizabeth, who nodded, concern etched on her face. "Hey, David," I called, waving him over. "Come join us." He hesitated, looking torn. "I'm fine, just watching," he said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Watching isn't enough," I replied, stepping closer. "We're all here for you. Come on, let's have some fun." Reluctantly, he made his way towards us. As the kids tugged at him to join the game, I sensed the battle within him. The weight of his worries loomed large, threatening to overshadow this moment of joy. I could see it in the way he held back, how he hesitated to fully engage. "David, remember what we talked about," I gently reminded him. "Strength is in being part of the family. Let go, if only for today." He looked at me, his eyes searching mine. The vulnerability there struck a chord deep within me. "I don't want to bring everyone down," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "But you're not a burden," I insisted, my heart breaking for him. "You're our rock. We need you just as you are." The children giggled, their carefree spirits a reminder of what truly mattered. I reached for his hand, feeling the warmth of connection. "Let's make this day count." Slowly, David nodded, his defenses beginning to crumble. All right, he said, finally breaking into a smile. "Let's do this." As he joined the kids in their game, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I watched him chase after them, his laughter mingling with theirs, and for the first time in weeks, I saw a glimpse of the man I loved, the one who found joy in the simplest of moments, the one who believed in the strength of family. Elizabeth joined me, her eyes shining. "He needed that," she said, her voice a soft affirmation of our shared understanding. "Sometimes we all need a nudge," I replied, my heart full. It's easy to forget that we're not alone in our struggles. As the afternoon wore on, we settled down for a break, laughter still echoing in the air. David caught his breath, leaning back against the blanket, his eyes sparkling with newfound light. "You know, I've been so caught up in my own mind. I almost forgot how to enjoy these moments. Life has a way of pulling us under," I said, my voice steady. "But it's in these times we need to reach out, to connect. That's where healing begins." He nodded, the weight of our earlier conversation lingering in the air. "I know I've been distant. I thought I could handle it all, but I see now that I was wrong. I'm tired of pretending everything's fine." "David," Elizabeth chimed in, her voice tender, "it's okay to be vulnerable. We're all in this together." The warmth in the air wrapped around us, a blanket of reassurance that we were on the right path. The kids returned, eager to share their adventures, their energy palpable. David listened intently, his earlier worries momentarily forgotten. "Did you see me? I was so fast," one of the kids exclaimed, his face beaming with pride. "Faster than a cheetah," David replied, his smile genuine. "And I caught you!" Another child chimed in, her laughter infectious. "Not for long," David teased, scooping her up in his arms, and the air filled with joyous shrieks. In that moment, I realized the strength of our bond, the threads of love weaving tighter around us, binding us together in a way I hadn't thought possible. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting hues of pink and orange across the sky, I felt a sense of renewal. The shadows that had clouded our family were lifting, replaced by the light of hope. "Let's promise to keep this going," I suggested, my voice steady. "Let's be there for each other no matter how tough things get." David nodded, his eyes glistening. "I promise," he said, his voice filled with conviction. No more hiding. And just like that, we forged a new path, one filled with openness, love, and the unwavering belief that we could face any storm together. As the stars began to twinkle above us, I felt a peace settle over my heart. We were a family, bound by faith and resilience. Together, we would navigate life's challenges, holding on to each other, never letting go. As twilight deepened, the park transformed into a canvas of shadows and soft whispers. The children's laughter faded, replaced by the gentle rustle of leaves as dusk approached. I watched David interact with the kids, each playful shove and triumphant shout weaving a tapestry of joy around us. The weight of unspoken words began to lift, carried away on the evening breeze. "Let's pack up, shall we?" Elizabeth suggested, her voice a melody of contentment. The children groaned but quickly rallied, eager to help. I joined in, folding the blanket, my heart swelling with gratitude. This day had shown us not just the beauty of togetherness, but the strength that lay within vulnerability. As we gathered our things, David turned to me, the corners of his mouth lifting into a genuine smile. "Thank you for today, Mary. I needed it more than I realized." I met his gaze, feeling the warmth of his words seep into my very soul. "We all did, love. Remember, it's okay to lean on each other. We're stronger together." He nodded, the tension in his shoulders visibly easing. Just then, one of the kids tugged at my sleeve, eyes bright with excitement. "Can we do this again next week, Grandma? It was the best day ever." I looked at the hopeful faces around me, each one a reminder of how love could spark joy, even amid challenges. "Absolutely, we can make it a regular thing. Family time is sacred." As we made our way to the car, I felt a new sense of unity enveloping us. David held Elizabeth's hand, and I walked alongside them, our hearts beating in rhythm. The past few weeks had been a storm, but today we had weathered it together, emerging stronger and more connected. Once home, we settled into the living room, the children piling onto the couch, their laughter echoing like music in the air. I grabbed a blanket, draping it over their laps, and sat down, feeling the warmth of their bodies pressed against me. David perched on the edge of the armchair, watching us with a soft smile. It was a simple scene, yet it resonated deeply, the embodiment of love and family. "Let's talk about what we want moving forward," I said, my voice steady. "I think today was a turning point for us. It's time we put more effort into being together." Elizabeth looked at David, her expression a mixture of hope and determination. "I agree. We should have family nights, game nights, movie marathons, anything to keep us connected." David leaned forward, his eyes brightening. "I like that idea. We could rotate who picks the activity each week." "I'll bring the popcorn," one of the kids shouted, breaking into a fit of giggles. "And I'll find a movie that isn't too scary," David added with a wink, his earlier tension fading into a shared laughter that filled the room. In that moment, I felt a shift, a promise unspoken, a collective commitment to be present for one another. The shadows that had threatened to tear us apart were dissipating, replaced by the light of understanding and compassion. "Let's also make it a rule to check in with each other," I suggested, my heart full. "No matter how busy life gets, we need to reach out, even if it's just a quick text. We're family, and we need to support one another." Elizabeth nodded vigorously, her eyes shining. "Definitely. I'm all in." David leaned back in his chair, looking contemplative. "You're right, Mary. I've been so caught up in my own worries that I forgot to reach out. I'll do better. I want us all to feel safe sharing what's on our minds." The kids were now engaged in a lively debate about their favorite superheroes, their voices rising and falling with excitement. I watched them, feeling a swell of pride and love. This was what family looked like, a tapestry of voices, laughter, and the promise of togetherness. As the evening wore on, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace settle over me. The trials we'd faced had illuminated our path, guiding us toward a stronger foundation. We were not perfect, but we were committed to growing together, to nurturing the bonds that held us tightly. "Let's close our time with a prayer," I said, feeling the pull of faith knit us closer. David nodded, and we gathered in a circle, hands clasped tightly. I led us through a simple prayer of gratitude, thankful for each other, for the love that endured, and for the strength to face whatever lay ahead. As I finished, I opened my eyes to find the kids smiling, their faces aglow with hope. David's grip on my hand tightened, and I could feel the warmth of his heart radiate through me. "Let's face tomorrow together," I said softly, looking into each of their eyes. "With faith at our center and love as our guide." "Together," they echoed, a chorus of voices that filled the room with an undeniable energy. In that moment, I knew we had turned a corner. The journey ahead would not be without its challenges, but we were equipped, armed with love, faith, and the promise to support one another. As the stars twinkled outside, I felt a sense of belonging wash over me. This was home, and together, we would always find our way back to each other.